Reach your impossible with the AI-powered Legion 5i. Lenovo Legion.
Speed thrills. Precision wins. Every corner, every stop, every second. Calculated. Can you handle the pressure? F1 Clash. Download for free from the App Store and Google Play.
Well, hello to you wherever you are around the world. Welcome along to DreamHack here in Birmingham, and most importantly to F1 Sim Racing 2026. It is our 8th season, and you can see right now the drivers are in their rigs, ready to get racing. Day 2 of racing for event 1, 3 races overall. And welcome, I'm Tom Deacon, and joining me on the desk we have George Morgan, Kai Bacchini, and Nicola Hume. We're back for day 2. Welcome, guys. Great to have you alongside. We had some fantastic racing yesterday. George, it was a pretty special day yesterday, wasn't it?
It was gnarly, Tom. I think it has to be said. I never thought I'd use that word in my life, but no, it was incredible. I mean, credit to Freddie Rasmussen, back after a really poor season last year, back in the winners column, and for the first time in the first race of an F1 sim racing season. So does this mean yet another twist? Maybe we tread on new ground with Red Bull this campaign, I'm not sure. Disappointment for Mercedes, could have been better, but again, it's a different day, new start.
Yeah, a new start. Gnarly is the word we're going for. Welcome wherever you are across the world. Will we use gnarly again? Kai, how would you describe yesterday's action and a brand new season?
Well, I don't know if I'm going to beat the deep vocabulary of gnarly from George here, but yeah, no, very excited. I think 2026 is a brand new season filled with new mysteries, new twists. As we mentioned, we've got old faces coming back and relying on that top step. Red Bull still as strong as ever, but so many teams, so many drivers putting up a good fight as well. We've got Alpine, keep an eye on them. Williams also have a very strong lineup with their drivers, so I don't think you can quite just put your money on one driver.
It is an absolute gamble as to see who is going to come out on top. And Nicola Hume, welcome. What an experience was for you, your first day, chatting to the drivers, being part of the team. Did you enjoy yourself?
I'm having a cracking time. Do you know what? I mean, from watching it over the years, watching the streams on YouTube for whoever's watching right now, I was in your seat last year, and now here I am. And it's so awesome to kind of see everything happening in the metal, to actually meet the drivers face to face, get to know them personally a little bit. And I'm really enjoying this weekend, so thank you for welcoming me. It's been really nice.
It's a pleasure to have you as part of the team. And it's so good to have a live event, fans coming to see their favorite drivers up close. Let's have a look back at yesterday's action. George, some of those highlights we started off with in a ferocious manner.
It was ferocious, and indeed from lap 1 it was very helter-skelter. Nicholas Longay not getting the best of starts after what looked to be a very promising qualifying session for the Williams driver. Of course, this was his debut start for the team from Grove. 2 P1s in Q1 and then Q2. Could not quite replicate it in Q3, however, and then he fell through on the initial stint on the hard tyres. Ulas Yildirim, who I must say impressed the year before, took pole position, could not quite replicate that this season either, but still started on the front row and was pestering Freddie Rasmussen at the same time.
There's a bit of contact, wasn't there, coming up
soon?
There
was. I mean, this is something that was consistent as of yesterday. I mean, we saw some of this from Otis Lawrence as well, but Freddie just looked absolutely impervious. This is the Freddie of old that we've come to expect. Ulash was trying to follow suit as well, blasting past his Van Pookie, who had a miserable start to his time at Williams in F1 sim racing this season as well. But elsewhere, plenty of issues for other drivers. Ruben Pedreño fell foul as well equally. Joris Krozen, what a meteoric day he had, obviously in his second season with the Haas team this campaign. Otis Lawrence, though, probably one of the what-if stories, the biggest what-if story on that stint, was leading the initial hard tyre contingent on the opening stint. Then when he moved on to the mediums, we expected him to be quick. This was the big moment. The collision with Jarno Opmeer that put any chances of a podium to bed. But Freddie, 17 times a race winner now in F1 sim racing, and looking really, really smart in contrast to last season. And Jarno was quite happily obliging his teammate.
Freddie.
I know the return of Freddie, which no driver likes to hear. Kai, we talked yesterday so much before we went racing around Shanghai Grand International Circuit about how they have a target on their back, and they delivered yesterday.
Yeah, Red Bull were on top form, 2 drivers inside of the top 4. I mean, Jarno would have been hoping to be the driver on the top step. He's so successful around that China circuit, but a bit of a switch up, and it was Freddie Rasmussen who's still on the top step. You can't fault the Red Bull team at all either. Already a 20-point gap that they have in the Constructors' Championship, and it's the dream start that they would have been hoping for. As you mentioned, when we saw Otis Lawrence making his way through the field on that alternate strategy, it was a bit of a spin of the wheel for a moment on who was going to end up on that top step, but inevitably, it was a Red Bull.
Cost him the potential podium as well.
Yeah.
And that was key.
Yeah, well, we'll get into that in a little bit, and the fact that we've set it up, don't go anywhere. It's not all over, is what we're trying to say about the Red Bull team. Let's see the rest of the classification from Shanghai yesterday. It had thrills and spills, though, Nicola, and when you chatted to Freddie, just laser focused, just onto the next.
But that's what Freddie does. Freddie is laser focused. And even when you try and sort of speak to him, you kind of know that his mind is always a little bit elsewhere. His mind is always on the track.
Yeah.
But I think that's what we like about Freddie. But what he did say to me when I spoke to him, this was just after his pole yesterday, he said to me, after the first few races last season, he was demoted to second driver, which then meant that the whole of last season he was focusing on helping Jarno. But if he performs well for the rest of this weekend, if he does well in Japan today, if he does well in Bahrain tomorrow, would that then demote Jarno? Discuss.
Well, that is a can of worms to open. Just to keep everybody up to speed, let's look at the schedule. Then, of course, today we will have qualifying in moments away. Then we'll have the race at 3:30 GMT. And then tomorrow back for another race to round out Event 1, qualifying in Bahrain, then the race. That is the question. Who do you favour as a team when you've got 2 exceptional drivers, both world champions?
I think it's really dangerous, I think, to start obviously looking at whether
you don't want to talk about it. George does not want to talk about it.
No. I think it's dangerous on the perspective that you can't really write off Jarno Opmeer after a 4th place, because I think he was delighted with the result, I think, personally.
Yeah.
I think it is compelling because this is a situation that Jarno and Freddie arguably haven't had before, because Jarno was quintessentially out of the championship running 2 seasons ago when Freddie lifted the title. So, I mean, look at
them race. Let them race is what the fans want to see.
Well, the thing is, this could be the first season where we see Jarno and Freddie properly tie up over a title. And listen, you try telling either one of them to let it go this season.
I wouldn't. I just try and get some chat out of them this morning was very difficult. I wanted to know what they were doing between day 1 and day 2. I can tell you this much, Jarno's had a burger. Listen, let's talk about this grid and the lineup. 3 changes from yesterday, George.
Yeah, magnificent. Obviously, we're going to be seeing the debut of Jan Halliday, I think, today, which is going to be astonishing. Obviously, we're just going to take a little bit of a look at Haas, though, to kick things off. Tamas Gal and Joris Krozen. Krozen, very much the story, I think, for Haas coming off yesterday's result, managing to pull together an astonishing qualifying and then matching it up with a sensational race result too. Another top 10 goes to them. Big points as far as the championship's concerned. Definitely a lot more growth, I think, can be expected from this team, so we'll wait and see what they can bring together. Next on the list, we move across to Racing Bulls, who had a hellacious time yesterday. Now, a lot of you might be a little confused. Where's Ulas Yildirim? He may have come second yesterday, but that does not mean he's going to feature today, because welcome back, Joni Tormela, a year out from Racing Bulls. He spent his time at Alpine last campaign, but he's back with the team where it all began, quintessentially, and he's got Tom Manley, the former F1 Sim Racing Challengers champion. We move on, though, to Aston Martin. Jan Halliday, as I said, making his debut here this time around, and Ruben Pedreño. Tom, what are your thoughts?
Well, formerly of the Williams all-Spanish lineup, it wasn't the start he would have wanted, finishing in P16, but with all to do, it feels a bit unfair for Duncan Hoffland, who picked up 2 points, equaling his total point pull from last season from 5 races. So what can this Aston Martin team, and they've got a stacked team behind these guys. They've got Christian, I spoke to his dad, who was just down at the front earlier on, sort of making sure they're in the best position. Can they beat their third place, their best ever in standings in 2021?
Oh, we'll soon find out, see whether they can pull something out of the bag. Williams next as well, Kai. Carreton returns once again, the only driver to remain with one team since 2018.
Yeah, in 8 seasons as well. That's a big feat to find himself still with the team. The team clearly confident in his ability, and the Spaniard definitely has the pace on the circuit. So unfortunately, Istvan Pukki will not be featured in this race, but the Frenchman alongside him as well. It was Nicolas Longuet, who was blisteringly quick in qualifying. He was quickest and topped the timings in the first 2 qualifying sessions. Managed to get himself third for the start of the race as well, but an incident on lap 1 saw him fall down the order, so interesting to see what he's able to do today.
More to come from Williams, that's for sure. And speaking of more to come, no question the next team are going to be looking for more here at Suzuka. Of course, Japanese Grand Prix territory is where we go today, and Red Bull line up with Jarno Opmeer and Freddie Rasmussen once more, the 2 drivers that went 1st and 4th in yesterday's contest. Jarno may have preferred a podium, may have had his opportunity to take on Alfie Butcher, but it wasn't to be. But there's your race winner back in his truest form after a sensational race, which now sees him top of the championship by equal measure. Red Bull with a solid bout of points, which takes them to the top of the tree in the constructors' standing. We move across, though, to Ferrari, Nicola, and we've got Ishmael Fassi and John Evans today. Really disappointing not to see Barry here, though.
Yeah, it's a shame not to see Barry. We were expecting to see him this weekend, but obviously he couldn't quite make it. So it was a last-minute step in for John Evans. So he was kind of thrown into the deep end. But I think he handled it okay yesterday. I mean, he ended up in P15, which is perfectly fine, not quite the points, but when you're thrown into a last-minute moment like that, I think that's the best he could have got, and hopefully today he'll start building on that and move a little bit further forward. But Ishmael, I spoke to him earlier, and he's feeling pretty good today. I mean, he finished P6. That was that little last-minute pit stop yesterday that I think helped him out a little bit. But it feels like he's on good stead today, feeling pretty positive. I mean, he had a great season last year. Now he's in Ferrari gear. I think he's going to do all right.
You know, John Evans playing catch-up. Obviously, it's been a while since he's competed at the top level in the rig. Understandably, a little bit perhaps off the pace in comparison to where he's been before. But we move onwards now to a team pairing that will be looking for better this time, featuring outside of the top 10 in yesterday's race at China. Very unlike Thomas Ronha, it has to be said. Very fast, electrically quick where it comes to racing on the F1 sim, but he's back once more in Mercedes with this young combination. Klaffenbach, the youngest driver on record here this season as well, at the age of 17. Coming into this series. We move on next, though, to McLaren. 2 young drivers once more. Alfie Butcher, who began his career at Haas, managed to pull off an astounding P3 on tyres that were 3 laps older than the majority of those that boxed onto the same compound he was on. He somehow managed to take it to the end. Many thought that his time at the top may have come to a stop. He was looking to pull off the undercut. It wasn't quite successful, but successful in the sense that he did get that podium. Benham as well, looking for a better result after finishing outside the top 10 yesterday. We move on to our final team. It's Alpine Sim Racing. Otis, maybe feeling slightly aggrieved after the contact with Jarno Opmeer yesterday. There you have it. No 6-7s, please, here, Otis Lawrence. We got Danny Berejnay, though, on hand with the wisdom. Managed to pull together an astonishing point yesterday after a difficult qualifying session. He would have been wondering what if after a difficult quali in yesterday's session, but he can bounce back here at Suzuka, I am sure. He's got lots of experience at a circuit such as this, Tom.
Lovely to see. Wow, look at those gentlemen with their helmets on. You could tell we're at DreamHack. Excellent attire for F1 sim racing. We accept anybody and anyone to come along and get involved in what we think is a fabulous competition. So there we go, all done. That is your grid. Very excited about this. Some drivers we didn't get to speak to yesterday. Did you catch up with any of the drivers today, Nicola?
I did. So earlier on, just before quali, just before they all set up in their rigs, I managed to pull aside Alvaro Carreton. Now, it was one of those where I went, I need to speak to him now, because he wasn't racing yesterday. And he's been doing this 8 seasons in a row. So, should we have a little look?
I'd love to.
Okay. Right then, Alvaro, this is your 8th season in a row. I mean, dare I say it, seasoned pro. How are you feeling to be back?
Yeah, it's been insane to be here again. Obviously, Birmingham's a new place for me as well, like everyone. The environment is crazy, and hopefully we can have a good quali and good race.
Well, I mean, because you weren't racing yesterday, so how does it feel to be within this space at DreamHack and having a live audience?
Yeah, normally the first race of the season is kind of more nervous than the rest of the season because you are like, let's say, 8 to 9 tenths, like actually months without racing, and you need to see how's the game like. But yeah, I'm ready for it, and hopefully we can score big points.
Now, if I've got my stats right, correct me if I'm wrong, this will be your 73rd race start, is that right?
Yes, it is.
Nice, I got that right, I'm so proud of me. But how do you feel knowing that this is your 73rd race? Do you just you feel like you're kind of settling in nice and easy now, or do you still approach every season with a little bit of nerves?
To be honest, I lie if I say I'm not nervous because every year is a new challenge. I've got new teammates as well. I think we have a complete package. That's why we are kind of rotating. I'm just excited, let's say, to qualify to race.
It's been a while since we've raced in Japan, so now we're back in Japan. How much have you really been focusing on this circuit?
Well, hopefully I can match what I did in 2019, which was a pole position. So let's see what happens.
No pressure, Alvaro, but I believe in you. Thank you very much for talking to me.
Vamos, Alvaro Carreton, as we look at him now getting set up to go racing and qualifying around Suzuka. I've got so many stats here. When you mentioned, Nicola, 73rd start, that's incredible to see. Jarno Opmeer made his 73rd start yesterday, and of course the OG up there, Freddie Rasmussen, pole to victory yesterday, more starts than any other driver, and that will hopefully put him in good stead, that sort of experience, and especially around Suzuka, George.
Yeah, and it's a brilliant track, Suzuka, as well as obviously been on the calendar for quite some time, honing the Japanese Grand Prix. We've witnessed many great races in the past, and if you look at obviously drivers that have been here in the past. It's a great track, for example, Freddie Rasmussen, who was won twice as well, ever since the inception in the F1 Sim Racing World Championship in 2019. Won it then the following year, as I said. Nicolas Longue, though, could be the one to watch. Obviously, Carreton's teammate for this season was exceptional in Q1 and Q2 yesterday. Maybe he can work some of that magic from the last time we were at Japan in this series.
It blew my mind when I was chatting to Nicola and Kai. We were all in our green room. Don't want to show off.
There's a nice sofa in there.
It's not. We had 3 chairs. Now we've moved up to 4 chairs, which is exceptional because there are 4 of us. Noted team. However, Carreton finishing on pole. This is our 4th time in Japan. What was the stat that you had, Nicola, about Freddie Rasmussen on the podium every single time?
Every time. Yeah. So he's had 2 wins, but he's always been on the podium in Japan. So he, even after yesterday, getting that pole, getting that win, all eyes on Freddie, I think.
I mean, can they be stopped? I know we're teasing it a little bit, but in terms of another win for one of those Red Bull drivers, it's a real tall mountain for these other drivers to climb, isn't it, Kai?
Yeah, and I mean, that's always going to play on the confidence of the other drivers as well. Coming into this season, every driver was talking about Red Bull being the team to beat. They're the team that are going to win the championship. These are the drivers that are going to win the championship. And with Freddie Rasmussen just securing that analogy and also putting himself in a race-winning position, 26 points to his name as well, with the pole position as well, he's going to be a hard driver to beat. And I think Jarno also backing him coming into this Suzuka race as well. It's been 4 years in the F1 Sim Racing Championship since we've arrived at this circuit. So I think everyone might be a little bit rusty at first, but I'm sure the cobwebs will come off soon. And I'm excited to see who comes out on top.
They'll shake those that rust off, absolutely. Freddie Rasmussen, you'll see with 26 points. For winning a race, you get 25 points. 1 point for finishing on pole. And also way down there, Duncan Hoffman, who's not racing today, comes in the debutant, Jan Halliday. Of course, Duncan Hoffman picking up 2 points, but it's Danny Berezny who had the fastest lap, so that's why he's got 2 points as well. It's remarkable to see. Let's talk about some of the other drivers out there who can challenge Jarno Opmeer and Freddie Rasmussen, George.
Well, I mean, I would expect an improvement from the likes of Thomas Ronha. Very underwhelming yesterday. I think it has to be said, and I think Thomas Ronha will be the first to tell you that as well. He was quite despondent after qualifying. Didn't think that they managed to extract the optimal amount of pace that they could have done. It did leave them on the back foot heading into the race. Ismail Fassi was sort of saying the same stuff as well. So
they left something on the table, and that's not what you want from qualifying, because let me tell you now, F1 Sim Racing, it's about that qualifying sometimes because of those such small margins between the drivers. We haven't mentioned Ulas yet enough. You bigged him up. You said this is incredible.
Huge.
His first ever podium.
Well, he's not racing today,
and he's not racing today.
No.
And when you look at the Constructors' Championship, That's going to be a big tall order for now Tom Malley and Joni Tormula.
Absolutely. I mean, it's great to see Joni back, obviously, and he's become a bit of an evergreen in F1 sim racing, it has to be said. But obviously, looking forwards, whether we can sort of scrub off some of the rust, Joni Tormula can get back in business here at Racing Bulls. We will wait and see. Obviously, stepping in for you, Lash, quite big shoes to fill, especially after the race yesterday, picking up that runners-up prize. But Tom Manley, former Challengers champion. Surely that moment of magic is just around the corner.
Yeah, here's a little stat, which I don't know, Kai, correct me if I'm wrong. Would any driver want to hear this stat? The most fastest laps, Joni Tormula. In F1 sim racing, do you want to be holding that crown, the most fastest laps? Because it means normally you're going to be at the back, but I mean he's absolutely smashing it. He knows the circuit like the back of his hand, going very quick.
Well, I don't know what driver wouldn't want to have that stat, because at least it shows that he has the raw pace to be up there. So Tormula, we know, is a very strong driver in terms of raw pace and raw ability and putting down those lap times on the circuit. And that's exactly what you want when you're looking for a driver, because mistakes can be ironed out and that can be learned in terms of racecraft. So Tormula has the pace, just converting that into the results.
Let's talk Suzuka. That is where we are going to go qualifying. We are moments away from that. What can we look out for in Suzuka? Where will drivers maybe starting to think about strategy?
Well, I mean, there's actually some options available on the soft tyres, which is great to see. It may be a little bit of a rarity for some drivers. Generally, the medium, hard medium is the preferential one. But this circuit, we are here at the Mie Prefecture province in Japan. Suzuka, 63 years ago, this track was introduced to the world of motorsports, and the first Japanese Grand Prix back in 1987. So it's been around for quite some time, but here in F1 Sim Racing, it kicked off for us in 2019. Going back to the tyres, if we do see softs, I'd imagine around about lap 7 to lap 8, if they want to push it that far. It is a bit of a risque strap, but like I said, the medium, more likely around about lap 10 is when we'll look to see them box as well. Hard medium, they can go as far as perhaps lap 14. That's around the realms, so we may see drivers perhaps mixing it up, going a little bit earlier, maybe even some going a little bit later, pulling off some Alfie Butcher exploits from yesterday. But in terms of the circuit in itself, it's bodied up with a fantastic snake section going up through the first sector. The Degners are rapid and quick through turns 8 and 9. The hairpin at turn 11 is mouth-watering. Fantastic overtaking zone as well right there if someone wants to leave it late. 200R on the run up towards Spoon is fantastic. There is the hairpin bend. You can just see it on the monitor just in front. And then taking it through 130R. The fast left-hander is always a pleasure to see, because they do go wheel to wheel into the Casio Triangle.
And not one mention of the circuit wheel. The first thing I would do, I would love to go to Suzuka, is to go on that circuit wheel. Kai, I'm looking out at the weather here at DreamHack Birmingham. Beautiful sunshine. However, we're racing in Suzuka. What's happening?
Well, I mean, the way that George describes it, you hear all of these fast-flowing corners. The last thing you would want is for it to be raining, right? Because then you're having to control the car through those corners. I'm not trying to put any commentator's curse on it, but I'll let the viewers see what's happening.
Oh, don't you dare, Kai. I mean, let's be honest, I was having a chat with Freddie yesterday and we were talking ahead of Japan, and he always seems to be a little bit concerned about that final chicane. And now we can see it might be a little bit wet.
Can we borrow your umbrella?
It might be quite fun to watch. Oh, yeah, I do. I nicked it from the hotel. Yeah, I'll bring it over later.
You borrowed it. You actually paid for it. There was no stealing of an umbrella.
Yeah, it was £3.
I just want that to be very clear.
And I will be giving it back.
George, they're heading out on intermediates and some wet slicks to try and set things up. What's happening in a strategy for the sim racing world? What's going on right now?
Well, this is unique in a way, because generally we see the intermediate tyres, or not necessarily the wet tyres, utilised even in a dry session when they're trying to test the equipment. But now they're actually going to have to use them properly, I think, in this essence. Obviously, we're not seeing any inters here. It's all wet tyres. There is that much of a deluge on circuit. You can just see there a lot of standing water. The drivers are going to have to try and mastermind their way around this. Now, this section of circuit, the Degners, you just see the tails whipping out on those Aston Martins as they come through. Be cautious of those curbs on the left-hand side. They do maybe suggest that they are reasonably wide, but they're also quite skittish. You jump off those, you're in the gravel trap on the left-hand side, and your quali lap is over at that point. I'm intrigued to see who's going to mastermind this. Experience is absolutely necessary, Kai.
Yeah, and I mean, those rumble strips will jump out at you. In the dry, you'll see drivers braking on the rumble strips, trying to use all the track available, but inevitably, there is less rubber on those rumble strips, and it's an uneven surface. So in wet conditions like this, that's the last thing you want. You need to avoid those rumble strips like the plague, and I'm sure that's what we'll be seeing from these drivers. You were talking about getting the car sideways, using the rear to rotate those fronts. I think that's exactly what we'll be seeing from these drivers. In the dry and shine yesterday, the flick strategy on the steering wheel is very much in fashion. In the wet, though, that's exactly what you need to be doing. If you're not flicking the car into the corner and using the rears to rotate the front, you're already at a disadvantage.
Absolutely. It's going to be like Swan Lake out there, I think, today.
It's going to be masterful. I'm curious to know, maybe you are as well, Nicola, in terms of the engineers that are in the background, when you see this incredible sort of arena that we've created here, what will they be doing? What will be communicated right now? Because they won't have necessarily practiced as much for being in the wet right now, in the rain. So how important is that strategy to have the team around them?
Well, I mean, I think obviously feeding the data back through the ears is necessary. They need to know in terms of what's going on around them. Obviously, that's the responsibility of the engineer, just to say, listen, this is what's happening with the 3 cars in front. This is what you need to do to try and counteract what they're doing. I think, though, they're going to have to tread on this with kid gloves. And as opposed to, having little time at the end of a session to be able being a bit liberal with the time allowed in qualifying, to leave it late and post your fast lap, I think they're going to need to make use of every ounce of time they have in this qualifying session, because generally the track tends to improve the more you're out on circuit. I will say this, 21 degrees out there right now. The optimals that we were seeing at China yesterday, 27, 28 degrees in terms of track temperature. So it is cold out there right now, and it's going to take a while for those wet tyres to reach a temperature where you'll find any grip, if you can find any at all, on this wet surface.
So we're kind of expecting, Nicola, we're hoping that the track will start drying up, so then we can set an even faster time out there. But at the moment, it's sort of neck and neck at the moment of what could possibly happen. What are you going to be sort of looking out towards? I know the first question, maybe potentially to the drivers afterwards, after Q1, Q2, Q3, will be, you weren't expecting it to be rain out there.
Bit wet, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Bit wet, wasn't it? Don't like that, do we? No, we don't. I mean, I'm having a little look. Kai's just pointed something out to me on his screen, and dare I say it?
Go for it.
Go for it.
I'm reading the word storm.
Okay, that's not what we wanted.
Let's just, right. So I know that yesterday you guys were talking about Alfie Butcher and how he kind of leaves everything when it comes to qualifying. He leaves it a little bit later to get that time in. So surely now he would have to change that and get out there as quick as possible to get a lap in.
Yeah, run plans will be very different to what we saw in the dry yesterday. In the wet, track development isn't so much of a thing, especially when the rain is constantly falling. The track is going to stay at a similar condition, even with the water being dispersed by the cars making their way over it, because with rain falling like this, that water dispersed is instantly filled in again. So there's not much of a difference between setting a fast lap at the start of a session and setting a fast lap at the end of a session. So I think we'll see these drivers pushing 100% from the start.
That is a good point. They are going to push at the start. However, update for you and everybody here at DreamHack in Birmingham who is live in person, and to anybody watching live out there, I have been informed towards 3 minutes, towards the end of the session, it's going to start to become light rain. So forget about the storm.
That's
so
fine.
Who is going to be brave? We saw very aggressive strategy used by McLaren yesterday. Is that the time to sort of be bold and go for it?
I envisage then that if you are in the bottom 3 and you're at risk of being eliminated, you're going to try a dash on the intermediate tyre.
Bolt them on. Let's go.
Yeah, you've got to. I think that you've got no choice. I mean, Kai, I'm sure you'd agree with me. If you're in a position where you've got nothing to lose, bang on the green strip tyre.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what we'll see every team diving for towards the end of the session. But just to be safe, surely you have to try and set a good time in the current conditions, because even if it does ease up towards the last few minutes of the session in terms of the rainfall, the track conditions aren't going to change massively.
Just to double check for everybody, because 4 years of, well, actually technically 9 years doing F1 sim racing. Just to break that down, the wet tyres are used for when it is it's raining, it's wet out on track. When are you using the intermediates? Why is that kind of discussion happening right now, George?
Well, it's when that light rain comes in, and obviously this is where the engineers come in very useful, because they're monitoring that water level on circuit all the time. The telemetry charts, the graphs, they'll see it declining, they'll see it rising. If it rises, then they're more inclined to go for that wet tyre. If it does decline and you see track grip start to increase, that is where they might choose to sub on the set of intermediate tyres. So
you've got to be brave, though.
You've got to be brave. It's down to the driver's call as much as the engineer. The engineer can tell them everything they want to, but it's down to the driver if they feel confident enough to strap on an intermediate tyre set. As you can see, we've already got the wet tyre times coming in, and dare I say, it's Freddie Rasmussen who's at top of the tree at the moment with the 141.954. But that delta, he's the only man in the 141s, I will just say this. I know it's early in the session, but when it comes to wet weather, because of that lack of track generation, you can have a fastest lap at this point in time. It could be as soon as this.
Well, here's what I was wondering, because if they're out at the moment on wets trying to get some laps in, surely this is the best opportunity to make the track dry quicker. If we are going to see it get lighter and get to lighter rain, then if they're all out getting those laps in, it leaves an opportunity for every person on the grid to get a faster lap in later on. So surely this is just teamwork from every single person on the grid.
Yeah, I mean, to a certain degree. I mean, obviously they're all there trying to serve their own needs, I think, at the moment.
You don't want to give an advantage away, though, surely.
Well, this is it. I mean, at the end of the day, they want to ensure that they bring together the fastest time. And as we just said, Freddie Rasmussen was on top. We've just seen another 1:41 poked in by Ruben Pedreño this time. So a decent time lofted in by the Aston Martin. And Joris Krozen, who, if you remember from yesterday, put in a stellar qualifying display at China. Well, he's purple again inside the first sector and looking to ferry in yet another quality lap time. Jan Halliday, I want to say this on his first start as well. His banker lap is only 6 1/4 tenths behind Pedreño's right now. But this is the trickiest point, especially under braking. You can't lock these tyres up coming into the Casio Triangle. So pressure on Joris Krozen now here in Sector 3 as he now makes his way downhill. Let's see how he manages this. Will he upend Pedreño? With 9 minutes to go here in this Q1 session, he certainly will. A 1:41.581. So already we have found nearly 4.5 tenths of a second. I'm going to say 4 tenths of a second alone since Freddie's initial fastest lap. So it is coming down, the time.
And he's bolted on those intermediates. There is a man who's feeling confident. We were worried, Freddie Rasmussen last year in the F1 Sim Racing Championship didn't score many points at all in the first event, and that's why he ended up being sort of the supporting driver for Jarno's drive to become a 3-time world champion. But he's back to full confidence now, straight away on those intermediates. Can you just explain, because I'm seeing some cars weaving in and out left and right. They don't seem to be staying in one straight line, picking up the speed. That's to warm up the tyres, right?
Yeah, so that's basically to get a work through on the tyres, get a bit of wear, take off that surface level of the track, of the tyre as well, and build up that carcass and surface temperature of those tyres. Their engineers will be monitoring that and will be able to tell the drivers when their tyres are within the optimal window and ready to push for a lap. So that's why on the outlap you will see the drivers weaving from side to side.
And it's not easy in these conditions either when it gets really cold.
No.
It's hard enough to warm up a set of wets and intermediate tyres in comparison to a typical soft or medium compound. When you throw the wet weather in this, you alluded to it being cold anyway. It's a mountain. It's a real hill to climb to try and get that temperature up.
And can I just interject? With these the best 18 drivers in the world right now competing, it's at this stage it's about how well they can adapt to this situation.
Yeah.
And as a team, you would say, Nicola.
Definitely. It's one of those where yesterday, after we had the quali and the race, we actually got George and Kai in the sims themselves just to kind of see if they could give it a go. They had a little mini race. It got a little heated, it got a little cheaty, but it was fine. But what it did was it gave people perspective.
Yeah.
And it made you go, oh, okay, right, these guys are very good. I see. Because, not to throw you under the bus, George, but you were in the wall a few times, and you had all of the assists
I
on.
learnt a lot of perspective yesterday.
Yes, and it opens your eyes as a viewer. It does, because sometimes it's very easy to stand back here and watch these guys going as fast as they can and kind of going, well, I could do that. How difficult is that? But actually, it's really genuinely is. And now they're throwing rain at you. This is even more tricky.
Yeah, and I think also, just to build on your point as well, Nicola, the actual rigs they're using, obviously Fanatec announcing their partnership with Formula One and the Sim Racing World Championship, that agreement is continuing. The rigs themselves, you feel absolutely everything through the seat. You get all that feedback in your hands. So again, when you've got that level of Newton meterage and you've got to try and manage it, it really is tough. Then you throw wet weather into perspective. I experienced it yesterday.
Yeah.
These are true pros.
We did Monaco in the rain yesterday, didn't we?
We did, yeah. So stay tuned if you want to see that content piece. I'm sure it'll rear its ugly head soon enough.
How did that go for you, George?
For the last couple of times at the race in Suzuka, this is the 4th time we're going to go racing. Pole to victory happened only once out of those other 3 races, and that was in 2020. It was Freddie Rasmussen, pole to victory. How important is setting it on a pole today for these drivers?
It's everything. I think largely, whilst you can gain places in the strategy, in certain positions, in certain elements, you are handcuffed in terms of how much you can do in a strategy sense as well. Though I will say Alfie Butcher did pull off a decent effort, just wasn't quite able to turn it into a race victory as he would have preferred, as Nicolas Longuet goes quickest now. So now we're starting to see the faster times come in. The intermediates are starting to turn here. Jarno Opmeer setting a time that was third fastest behind Freddie Rasmussen. Carreton has gone third. So now Williams first and third now as Jake Benham crosses the line. He still remains ninth for now.
Kai Piccini, George Morgan, enjoy quali as we go round Suzuka.
Yeah, very much looking forward to this. Thank you guys, Nicola and Tom, for joining us up here in the commentary box. Can't wait to hear from you guys later. I'm sure Nicola will have some great insights with the drivers as well after their qualifying sessions. But just as two of them leave just me and George up in the commentary box. If you haven't witnessed it with your own eyes, the light rain has now became upon us, and these intermediate tyres are very much the quicker tyre to be on right now. So if I was any driver, George, on that wet compounded tyres, I would be diving back into the pit lane as soon as possible.
They've got no choice now, Kai. I think the times now that we're seeing it on the weather maps as well. It is lightening up at the moment. Of course, at the moment, it's Nicolas Longuet back again in Q1. In P1, provisionally, albeit Freddie Rasmussen decided to dive into the pits for a rethink. The purple sector situation, it is spread across three different drivers. Nicolas Longuet with the purple first sector, purple second sector to Otis Lawrence, but he's all the way down in seventh at the moment. Alvaro Carreton, though, sister Williams driver to Nicolas Longuet. The two cars currently stacked inside the top four. Carreton with the fastest third sector here in this session at the moment. Jake Benham currently locked into P10. Ishmael Fassi ninth. In comes Alfie Butcher, Benham's teammate, who will also be stopping for a little bit of a rethink. He is part of that contingent that are also on the wets at the moment. So I can only imagine that all those on the wet tyres are going to be coming straight in the pits, strap on a set of intermediate tyres, because they know they have to do that to counteract what's going on inside this top four. But I've got to give credit to Jan Halliday, his first start in F1 sim racing, and already in the top four equation, but there's still a lot that can happen in the final 3.5 minutes.
Well, just proving that he belongs on this grid right now is Jan Halliday, and great to see that he's right up in there in the mixer as well. But you need to be strapping on these intermediate tyres if you want to guarantee yourself a place in Q2. Nicolas Longuet currently leading the fray, proving that he's a qualifying ace and looking to do what he couldn't do yesterday. He was looking so strong for the hat-trick, wasn't he, in China? And that final qualifying session was just pipped by the man himself, Freddie Rasmussen, who then went on to win the race as well. It was a difficult race start in China for Longuet. I was just speaking to him earlier on. He says, just hoping for a bit better luck off the line. A small racing incident was all it took to put him out of contention.
But he knows how quick he is. Based on what we saw in Q1 and Q2, lots of optimism, I can imagine there. And obviously being part of that top 10 in Q3 makes all the difference. But just look at this from Ruben Pedreño. More time being found. The track is generating. It has popped up a degree in terms of what we last saw. It was 21 not too long ago. It's 22 now on track. So we are going to see a little bit more temperature filtered into those tyres now as we see Pedreño storm to the top and a 1:38.007. That is just over 4/10 quicker than Nicolas Longuet. So more encouragement for those that are now strapping on those intermediate tyres. Though what I will say is that they're only essentially going to get one run at this, though. Those that were on the wets, this is their first stint on the intermediates, and we've only got just over 2 minutes to go.
Yeah, track development is a huge factor at the moment. And I did notice when we were looking at the graphic there, Nicolas Longuet still sitting in the pit lane, so he's not going to have any time to make his way out of the pit lane and set another lap. But I wouldn't be too confident if I was Nicolas Longuet, because seeing that Ruben Pedreño was just able to go nearly half a second quicker than the Williams driver, now he makes his way out of the pit lane, but does he have enough time to make it to the line?
And just think of the names we still have that are going to be filtering in their final laps. Freddie Rasmussen, of course, pole sitter from yesterday. Jarno Opmeer is going to be in the mix. We know that he doesn't generally qualify well, but he's a factor. Alvaro Carreton, his own teammate, is still in the mixer as well. Otis Lawrence, Ishmael Fassi. What about Thomas Ronha as well? Danny Berejnay, one of the most experienced drivers on the grid. You have got so many talented young drivers, and indeed drivers that have been experienced, been through the series, know all its peaks and troughs. They've come here now to DreamHack with all that behind them now, and we could see this classification turned right on its head.
If you're ever going to have a mix-up in a race or qualifying order, torrential wet weather is exactly when it's going to be, because speaking to the drivers themselves in this wet weather, purposely trying to get as much heat into the tyres as possible as the track is continuously drying. But in the wet, these drivers have to be so on the limit. They're almost sideways through every corner.
And they only have 1 lap to get these tyres up to temperature. They've got to make use of that 1 lap, and we know how hard it is to get that tyre up into temperatures. Look at the car park we have here coming into the Casio Triangle chicane. All of them not keen to move just yet. Remember, no slipstreaming in qualifying here. They do have essentially a little bit of ghosting just to ensure that all the cars can get round, but we have got 12 seconds to go. This is it. All the flying laps are going to be posted here and now. Who's going to improve the best? Who's going to sink below? We'll soon find out, Kai.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a couple drivers that were caught out by that traffic jam. Maybe not everyone just about seems to make it across the line. Maybe a sweat coming on the brow of a few drivers there, but this isn't going to be helpful at all. The last thing you want in these race conditions is to be focusing on a car in front of you. You want open track, no slipstream, no dirty air. So the car in front of you virtually doesn't affect you, but just having a car in that space will. So sideways there through Degner and just trying to keep the car right on the limit. Alfie Butcher is pushing everything out of this McLaren.
I mean, it's pretty much gone from what is usually a 3-step qualifying session. Specifically, though, in this session, it's essentially a one-stop quali, or a one-shot quali here at the moment, because you can forget everything you have done leading up to this point. The optimal conditions are here and now, and every single driver needs to pull off an optimal lap in order to maintain safety and move through to Q2. Remember, the top 15 move through to the next session. We will lose P16, 17, and indeed 18, within the top 10 out of Q2 going into the Q3 pole shootout. As now they make their way through towards 130R. It's Ruben Pedreño who currently shows the fastest time right now. Personal improvements here from Joni Tormela, so no question the mean green tyre is working for the man who returns to Racing Bulls. A little bit of a tricky escape. He invalidates the lap. Joni Tormela is shaking her head. That is miserable for the man in P16. Times are coming in. Rasmussen goes fastest. Lawrence into second. Butcher and Benham third and fourth. Longuet now down to fifth. Ishmael Fassi, as now we see Joris Krozen go third fastest. That is blistering. And we lose John Evans once more, Joni Tormela, Alvaro Carreton on his return in P16. Those are your 3 names. It arrived at the very last minute, but it's back-to-back P1s if you include Q3 from last time out. Q1, Frederick Rasmussen back on top in a qualifying session, though we still have 2 more to bring you to decide who's going to take pole, but Red Bull back on the pace. Otis Lawrence, but again, a gallant display from Joris Krozen here at the same time, Kai.
Well, I'll tell you what was the most devastating factor there is Joni Tormela on his invalidated lap time set a 136.830, which would have been enough to put him 12th in the standings. That would have been enough to get himself through to Q2, but the margins are so fine, and there's no arguing that if you get up on the curb a little bit too much, 4 wheels over the white line, you have to pay the price for pushing the limit. I
tell you what, Freddie is looking absolutely versatile out there. 93,000 separated the top 2 in the timing screen. Otis Lawrence in second, just out of Joris Krozen. What a fantastic display from the Haas. There's your confirmed eliminees. Of course, we say goodbye to Alvaro Carreton, obviously featuring in his 8th season consecutive with Williams, the only driver to do so since 2018. Joni Tormela, not a grand return for him, and no doubt will be disappointed after invalidating coming through the Casio Triangle chicane. Not ideal. They're going to have to try and cook something up in terms of the strategy. They do have options though. Tom Manley did gain a top 10 to at least make his way into Q2, and he'll be hoping that he stays there at the end of Q2 as well, so he gets a shot at the P1 spot heading into the Japanese Grand Prix. There is Ishmael Fassi, of course, no concerns necessarily for him, but his teammates on the other hand. John Evans, back-to-back visits in qualifying with eliminations inside Q1, but understandably, due to the fact that he has not had necessarily the same amount of preparation time. Of course, we heard how disappointed that Barry is certainly feeling not featuring here for Ferrari, but it is what it is. Nothing they can really do about it, and John Evans stepping up for the team and doing his best to try and to support the Tifosi and indeed the squad from Maranello. There's Alvaro Carreton. We'll be hoping for better days, I am sure. Not a grand return for him, but they'll rest assured, though, that Nicolas Longuet still remains inside the top 6. Remember, he didn't actually field a final lap with everyone else.
No, and that's exactly what shows levels to it as well. unfortunately, Alvaro Carreton, our newest driver, taking a departure there in Q1. The driver sat alongside him, Nicolas Longuet, will be making his way through to Q2. It was 6th overall for him. Keep an eye on Nicolas Longuet as well, our most recent race winner around the Suzuka circuit in the F1 Sim Racing Championship. That was back in 2022. But the man fastest at the moment, he's already got 2 race wins, 2019, 2020, and will it be 2026?
Well, we'll soon find out. Q2 coming up shortly, but we can head over to Nicola, who's with Jarno Opmeer.
Jarno, tricky one, that.
Yeah, wasn't ideal.
Wasn't ideal. When you came over, obviously greeted you, and I said, tricky one, bit disappointed, but you kind of went, well, you know, I'm kind of okay, but underneath not feeling great.
Yeah, it's really frustrating to invalidate the lap like that. I knew it was going to be very tight, so I had to try something. So.
I mean, it's nice to have you back on the grid. And, you know, how do you feel about Japan as a circuit overall anyway? Are you feeling a bit more confident about the race later today anyway?
Yeah, I was really confident, especially in the warm-up. I was feeling great. And then in my head, I should have gone into Q2 easily, but yeah, it happens.
These things happen. That's exactly what you said to me earlier as well. But I do also want to ask, did you watch the racing yesterday?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So Ulash had a pretty good day yesterday. So do you find that puts a bit more pressure on your shoulders being here today?
Not really. I would say it's less pressure for me because he got such great points. So.
Okay. This is feeling way more positive. Because obviously you're looking at team points, but I was thinking driver against driver, no?
Not really. I just care about the team.
God, you're so chill. I absolutely love it. But look, I'm sorry you're out in Q3. Go and relax and think ahead of the race later on. Jarno, it was lovely talking to you. Thank you very much. George, back to you.
Thank you very much, Nicola. We are back in business here in qualifying. Great to hear that from Jarno Opmeer. Team is at the centre of his priorities, and for good reason as well, because that is where the prize money is divvied anyway, really, Kai.
Well, that's exactly what you want to hear as a team principal, to hear Jarno Opmeer say that the team is all he's really focused on. That will be a big sigh of relief and also a big smile on the face of all of the management there at the RB team. But Opmeer knows that that wasn't the best result that he had. He said it was going to be tough, had to try something, was just pushing the limit, maybe stepping over just slightly. But at least going into the race later on today, he knows that's the limit and surely won't make that mistake twice. He's a great driver, very experienced. It was a rookie error. Yes, it was a small mistake. Every driver does it, but you'll learn from it going into the race.
But again, this is the risks that are implied when you have the wet weather over the curbs, and especially at the Casio Triangle chicane, a heavy braking zone, Kai. If you lock up those tyres, if you commit too close to the curb, you always run that risk of invalidating, right?
It's such a difficult section to perfect in the dry, never mind the wet as well, because it's one of those sections where it's so much faster to use and abuse the curbs where you can without going over the track limits. But those track limits and also using the curbs to your advantage is such a fine line. And as you see, even the 18 best in the world make that mistake. So if you're sat at home and you decide to give it a go yourself, don't be too disheartened if you make the same mistake as Jarno Opmeer.
Absolutely not. I made many mistakes around Monaco yesterday in the wet. I know exactly how they feel, and they are managing it a lot better than I would anyway. Ismail Fassi, though, we're currently watching as he makes his way around 200R, and he'll very shortly hit the spoon curve as well, as you can now see. Making use of some of the curve on the right-hand side, currently purple inside that first sector, fastest of the drivers that are out on track right now, and has certainly enjoyed his little small run so far with Ferrari. I'll be hoping that it'll blossom into a rich and vibrant career run indeed for the Scuderia, after coming off the back of a time with Williams where he was runner-up to Jarno Opmeer in his pursuit of the World Championship last campaign. But back he comes now, taking on the same Casio Triangle chicane that saw Jarno Opmeer bow out of qualifying. Let's see how Fassi does. This time, no, he's going to come into the pits. Tell you what, that's the crescendo gone. There's Tamas Gal, who will be setting a lap. He's first, fastest inside the first sector. Purple, I should say, goes across the line and will set in place. A 1:35.635. Julian Klappenbach into the pits as well, following suit from what we saw from other drivers, of course, earlier on. Jake Benham, though, rises to the top, just under 3/10 clear at the moment of Tamas Gal. Just goes to show again the track improvements. It is still 22 degrees out there right now. 10 minutes and 47 to go, though it looks like this light rain is going to be staying with us.
well, staying with us for the moment. You can visually see the track is starting to dry up, so times are tumbling as we speak. Every lap that is set is going to get faster and faster. But George, you'll be glad to hear I just got some breaking news in my ear. 20 minutes time, which means that heading into the Q3 session, overcast is the forecast. The rain is no more.
Hold the phone, everybody. Jan Halliday in his first start in F1 Sim Racing, purple inside the middle sector as well. What a grand visit it would be for him in the Aston Martin to storm to the top, at least provisionally for now. We know that track conditions will improve deep into the session, but to lay down the benchmark is key, and Jan Halliday not quite able to convert it to a P1 position, but still in amongst the rest of the field, 5th fastest at this stage, and does join that contingent of 6 cars that have laid down 2 laps onto the board. Joris Krozen now making his way out of Spoon Curve, also looking to improve once again after a fantastic performance yesterday, and a huge confidence boost for Haas, who I have to say have proven to develop great stars in the past. Thomas Ronha, remember, began with Haas. Alfie Butcher began with Haas, and he won the last race of the 23-24 season.
Yeah, well, we haven't actually spoke much about Haas as a team, and they've kind of went under the radar a little bit, but their drivers clearly proving that they have the pace to be fighting up at the front end. And I think it's a lineup that will be interesting to see develop over the course of the season for Haas Racing as well. Obviously, Joris Krozen, the Dutchman, only 19 years of age, and his counterpart alongside him, Thomas Gau, also 19. So a young parent in the team, which also means that they're very moldable drivers, they're very adaptive. So these conditions are actually suiting more in their favor a little bit as they try to get used to these conditions around this circuit. As we mentioned before, F1 Sim Racing has not been at Suzuka in 4 years, so amazing to see such a drivers and fan favourite circuit back on the calendar, and the Haas team trying to make their mark in doing so. Haas, as a team, their best result in a championship was 3rd place in 2022, but 2026 could be a different question. There could be improvements, and we can't quite tell who is the team favourite at the moment. Obviously, speaking to the drivers and everyone here, Red Bull's a favourite, but that doesn't mean they're going to finish on top.
No, not at all. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still a gigantic question mark. We haven't had all the lap times come in yet either. A lot of drivers now making their way out on outlaps that are looking to register their first times of the session. Obviously, just alluding to Freddie Rasmussen, if he was able to pull off the same level of pace, again, making his way out of Q2 and then quintessentially through Q3, managing to mastermind a pole position, he will become the only driver to take more than 1 pole at this Japanese circuit here in F1 Sim Racing. So that would be quite an achievement on his part. Ruben Pedreño looking for gallant improvements. He's now making his way out to the hairpin bend and now charging uphill where he'll tackle 200R once more. Of course, Aston Martin now this time with 2 cars currently situated inside the top 5, could yet find themselves with 2 cars moving through to Q3, which Red Bull, I think, were actually the only team in yesterday's qualifying session to have 2 cars moving through to the final session.
Yeah, correct. And now we're seeing a completely different story. This is all it takes. 24 hours is all it takes to make such a huge difference. And Ruben Pedreño was getting to grips with the new simulators, getting to grips with himself in the race yesterday, and now finds himself quite in his element in these wet conditions. The Spaniard is really enjoying his time out there on the circuit. He'll pull across the line now. Is it enough to jump P1? Yes, it is. And by quite a margin, 0.6 of a second is the new benchmark, 134.7. Aston Martin, only 2 pole positions in history. Could it be a 3rd?
His teammate could rip it away. Certainly purple inside that first sector. Make that sector 2 as well. So now the track is ramping up. It's 23 degrees now. The temperature slowly rising. Jan Halliday looking to make it a debut season to remember. And now potentially putting himself on provisional P1 here in Q2. That could be absolutely massive. Not quite the final sector unable to pull it together, but quite nicely. It's Aston Martin, Ps1 and Ps2. A stark contrast to the issues they've been having in real-life Formula One to date. Obviously, they've had troubles as far as the technical aspect is shown, unfortunately, for both Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso. As far as the sim racing side is concerned, it's looking rather bright at the moment for Pedreño and Halliday.
Yeah, well, maybe a bit of a switch up from the real life racing.
Maybe.
But that's what you love about F1 Sim Racing Championship, is no matter what's going on in the real world, you always expect a different result week on week. Otis Lawrence is coming to redeem himself, jumps up to the top. Freddie Rasmussen is not able to topple the Alpine driver, so Otis Lawrence currently with the benchmark by a tenth. Ismail Fassi was so fast in qualifying yesterday, left it down to the wire as well, but in Suzuka could be looking to do one better.
Yeah, Otis Lawrence now on top and in control, 134.063. We're far apart from the times we saw earlier on. There's yet more improvements being found. Longuet has just gone second fastest as well. Ishmael Fassi down to third. Alfie Butcher in fourth. Now there's no more Aston Martin at the top this time around. Instead, Jan Halliday on the bubble of elimination. Remember, the bottom 5 say goodbye when the timer ticks to 0 later on and we see the final laps roll out. And indeed, that will be our next viewpoint. Of course, we've got 5 minutes to go. So we'll see what happens. We'll see whether some drivers choose to go out of sync. At the moment, though, we are seeing Joris Krozen with a personal best inside the first sector. He's gone purple as well inside the middle. This is a gallant certainly showing so far from Kroes in his last lap. 3 seconds now off the pace against Otis Lawrence. Now this is going to be a huge improvement here for Joris Krozen, but decides to divert into the pits. He's not going to lay down that benchmark. Instead, he's going to join the rest and come out for one more run. But Jake Benham, will he focus now his efforts coming through the final corner, or will he commit to the pits? No, he's going to finish the lap. Purple in the middle sector here for the British driver and goes first fastest provisionally for now, and a vote of confidence for the Papaya team.
Yeah, Jake Benham there just wrestling that McLaren through the Casio Triangle chicane, and that's exactly what you need to get yourself up to the top of the timing boards. Do remember that there is still 4 minutes remaining in this session, and Freddie Rasmussen will not be satisfied with 7th at all. We haven't mentioned his name once yet this qualifying session. Jarno Opmeer, currently 8th overall, 3-time world champion, and probably one of the favourites coming into this season off a 2025 championship win. But Suzuka is definitely a circuit that puts the driver to their tests. It's one of the most precise circuits on the calendar. If you want to be the fastest, you need to put the car in the exact right position at every moment. So many switches in sections. Turns 3 to 7 through the S's is known as the rhythm section for the drivers. It's all about that front end commitment. Tire temperature is so critical around here. You need to build it up early to make sure you have that initial grip from the get-go. You make your way into the Degnas, high risk curbs, but risks need to be taken in the rain here. It's so classic for drivers to make errors. Just one hit of the curb at a wrong angle and you're off into the gravel trap.
You're absolutely right, Kai. Jake Benham, just to point on him, of course, had 2 podiums last season in 2025. Obviously looking now with McLaren to bolster his claim in F1 sim racing, very quickly making his way into the pit, very nearly making contact with the barrier, incidentally, on the way in too, and that would have been an embarrassing moment, I think, no question for the All-Star. But now into the pits he comes. 13th thousandths between Benham and Otis Lawrence. Lawrence hoping for a better session this time. Remember, Q3 did not quite work out. The initial first 2 sessions weren't terrible, but not qualifying inside the top 5 yesterday certainly hurt the young man. And now looking to come back fighting Alfie Butcher as well, after a sensational podium yesterday where it was all thrown in doubt after his tyres the strategy, first of all, didn't seem to work initially. Of course, was looking for that undercut, was actually a second a lap faster than Freddie on his run in the second stint, whilst Freddie was still on his first stint tyres. But towards the end, it just seemed to ebb and flow away. Rasmussen caught up with him, overtook him, essentially nullifying and voiding that time gain that Butcher had put together. And in the end, Butcher did a gallant job of holding on to that P3 because he had Jarno Opmeer breathing down his neck.
Yeah, not an easy position for the youngster as well. Talking about another youngster that has been on great form, Joris Krozen, we know has stellar qualifying pace. Currently finds himself down in P14, so teetering on the edge of that danger zone. Remember, the bottom 5 drivers from this session will be removed. 15 remain, and in 2 minutes time we'll find out who are the final 10 making their way to Q3. Your bottom 5 currently consisting of Tom Manley, Joris Krozen, Thomas Gau, Danny Beresnay, Jan Halliday and Julian Klaffenbach just on the brink of it.
Yeah, outlaps for every single driver in the session now on show. Tom Manley, no time set. This is it's going to be one and done for Tom Manley. It has to be. Danny Beresnay, You just see in the bottom right of screen, ever so experienced, allowing his teammate to go through. Otis Lawrence just sat in front of him. Berejnay, though, on his outlap. What's going? What are the cogs turning? What are they suggesting in his brain right now? What are you thinking, Kai, when you build up to a fast lap?
Well, if I was in Danny Bereznay's shoes right now, well, I wouldn't fit into them because of how tall he is and how big his feet are as well. But let's say theoretically I would be saying to myself, don't have a repeat of yesterday. It was a Q2 departure from Danny Bereznay yesterday. Today could be redemption day for him, and for the Alpine team, they would very much be hoping to have both cars into that Q3 session. Two drivers that are very capable of making their way into Q3.
Interesting note. So I spoke to Danny Berejnay coming into the weekend, and we were talking about pedals because we know how vicious he is when it comes to braking. And one thing about this Japanese circuit is there is a lot of heavy braking zones. The big one, of course, being the hairpin bend at turn 11, of course, and you do apply it at the Casio at the same time. He has broken 8 pedals at home. So just goes to show how much force he applies through the load cell. Very, very stiff stuff. Takes a real level of force to really break those pedals, Kai.
It really does, and I've seen it time and time again at the live esports events. Danny Bereznay goes through those sets of pedals like I go through bags of M&Ms. I mean, he virtually jumps onto the brake pedal, and if you start to feel a bit of an earthquake here in Birmingham at the DreamHack in the NEC, then don't be alarmed, don't be surprised. It's just Danny Bereznay braking for turn 14.
It certainly is. Well, the clock now has ticked to 0. Jake Benham has called time on his runs here in Q2. The question is, will he still remain? He may be at top of the tree for now, but all drivers looking to improve, and Tom Manley has posted a personal best inside the first sector. He'll be hoping to remain inside the top 10. Currently, though, he's at the bottom of the tree. He's not yet actually laid down a lap time, so this is such an imperative moment here for Tom Manley. No time set, looking, though, to ferry his way up through the rostrum, looking for that top 10 place to confirm a Q3 visit. As they now storm down through towards 130R. Plenty of drivers, though, looking to find their way to the top. Otis Lawrence, remember, sat in second place, 13 thousandths between them. The top three, 72 thousandths in amongst them. Nicholas Longuet, of course, that belonging to in third place. They come through the Casio Triangle. They're all going to storm across the line as the rain continues to fall. It's Otis Lawrence first fastest, Pedreño third. Longuet displaced to fifth. Pedreño now down to fourth as Benham remains third. Benham stays inside the top three. Klaffenbach drops. Opmeer's out. Jarno Opmeer out of qualifying. That is truly sensational down in 14th place. Jan Halliday out as well. Tamas Gal as well. Both Hasses are gone. Freddie Rasmussen just on the bubble of elimination in P10. It was very nearly good night nurse for him. But Otis Lawrence, fastest here in Q2. A brilliant response from yesterday, but he needs it again in Q3. And can I just say, Tom Manley, no lap time set. He's P2 come the end of the session here, Kai.
Well, all you need is one fast lap. Yes, it was the risky strategy, but sometimes risk pays off in your favor. Freddie Rasmussen just clawing through into Q3 by 19 thousandths of a second. The margins are so thin, and Joris Krozen will be kicking himself. He'll be looking at that lap time, wondering where he could have found those 19 thousandths. But it was almost the biggest upset of the century, so close to being both Red Bulls out. And Jarno Opmeer, 14th, not just out of the session, but near the bottom of the order.
Yeah, truly sensational. Jarno Opmeer, 14th fastest, and looking at the gap, just over 9/10 of a second, coveting at the top. They obviously running all on the intermediate tyres. Otis Lawrence still at top of the tree. Tom Manley, I've just got to say, impressive work. Jake Benham, who did not get to join the others for that final run, may have felt a little bit of improvement in terms of track temperature with everyone else being out onto the circuit, though it did not matter for him. He is going through regardless. Ruben Pedreño, Aston Martin, still in the mixer, that they are only going ahead with one. Jan Halliday in his first start in F1 Sim Racing down in 13th, barreling out. Haas, of course, losing both after Joris Krozen's dazzling display yesterday in qualifying. He's not going to replicate it this time. Thomas Ronha now moving through to Q3, will be inside the top 10, and truly remarkable as we now see the others on the grid. Danny Berejnay in 7th. We are just looking at the telemetry screens. Obviously, myself and Kai have been observing it. We actually believe that perhaps Opmeer tried a run on the soft tyre going through the end of the session, obviously just taking a risk. Whether that is true, maybe Nicola can find out for us a little about that. I can tell you that that is the case. So fingers crossed we will get a word on what tyre compound he was on, because we're getting 2 bits of info. Obviously his fastest lap was on the inters. Shows on telemetry on the softs. The weather may have not been optimal for that soft compound. Kai.
Yeah, not optimal at all. 7 tenths slower, on his final tour of the circuit there. So maybe Opmeer going for the gamble, trying those soft compounded tyres and jumping the gun a little bit in terms of the conditions on the track.
Yeah, well, we'll find out hopefully very shortly. Elsewhere, Ismail Fassi in the Ferrari as well, inside that top 10. Nicolas Longuet also moving through to Q3. So Williams also with a driver in the mixer for a potential pole position. Plenty of storylines here. I got to give credit to Tom Manley, even despite the departure of Joni Tormela. RB still with an iron in the fire. There is Tamas Gell, no doubt disappointed, probably hoping for a much improved run. Joris Krozen, who, as we said, brilliant yesterday, not quite able to replicate it this time around, 11th place. So there's options over the strategy if you're in P11 though, Kai.
Yeah, there's plenty of options that you have, and Joris Krozen, I'm sure, from P11 outside the top 10, most of the drivers will go for the alternate strategy, which we saw in China, starting on the hard compound tyres instead of the mediums for that early grip and trying to get your long stint out of the way. I wouldn't be surprised if we see something similar here.
Yeah, I'd imagine they will probably utilise a mixture of tyres, maybe try something a little unorthodox, because like we said, we do sometimes see the soft tyre raise its head on the odd occasion. Elsewhere though, Freddie Rasmussen very nearly barrelling out of the session. It could have been 2 Red Bull drivers gone out of Q2.
Yeah, and that would have been detrimental to their championship and also their hopes going into the race, because Rasmussen being the race winner yesterday, all eyes were on him. He should be the driver up at the front end, but no, down in P10, almost a departure in Q2, and I think his confidence may be knocked coming into this, and Q3, I wouldn't be surprised. Obviously, we know it's overcast conditions. Drivers might be relieved that they're able to put those dry compounder tyres on now.
Well, Nicola, I'm hoping you'll be able to tell us whether Opmeer did try the soft tyre in that final run. Can you tell us? Can you let us know?
What a great question.
Yeah, we decided to try out the softs for the last run. Clearly didn't work out. I think it was a little bit of an unnecessary risk, to be honest. But yeah, can't always get them right. So.
I mean, everything's always going to be a bit of a gamble in the rain anyway, and I guess someone's kind of got to go for it in the end and just give it a little go, and it obviously didn't quite work in your favour. But as reigning world champion, you're stood here right now, you've gone out in Q2. How do you come back from this?
Well, this track is going to be a complete disaster to overtake, so it's going to be very tough to even get points, I think. So to gain 4 positions is going to be hard. So, yeah, we'll see.
So talk to me about your gap between now and the race. What you're doing?
I mean, usually we're discussing strategy. Of course, if we're starting to the front, there's a little bit more pressure on it. But yeah, now we're just going to take some big risk, because there's no point in going conservative for a P10 or a P11. So yeah, we'll just go maximum attack and see what happens.
So how do you feel about Freddie's win yesterday? Do you feel a little bit of threat there within the team, or are you feeling very supportive of Freddie?
No, I've been his teammate for the past 2 years, but also his rival before that, of course. I know how fast he is from practice, of course, and I know if he just gets it together, then no one is beating him basically. So, yeah.
I mean, we don't know what the weather's going to be like for the race later. It was a wet quali. As soon as you saw it was raining, what was the first thing that went through your head?
Nothing special, to be honest. I think we were quite fast, especially I started to get into the rhythm in the end there. Yeah, it was a shame we couldn't show the pace, because I almost went through into Q3 on a used set of tires, even though it was much wetter that on. I was only 1/10 away from the cutoff, so yeah, it was a little bit frustrating.
Well, I wish you all the best for the race later. Go and relax back with your team and sort out strategy, etc. Thank you, Jarno. George, back to you.
Thank you very much, Nicola. Obviously, yeah, getting confirmation that you did try the soft tyre. Now, whether that was an instruction that was given to him, Kai, I got the vibe that it was an instruction, not necessarily a decision that Jarno wanted to make.
Well, that was actually going to be the question that I was going to ask you, George.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's the driver that makes the final decision. Of course, he can have as much advice in the world as he wants from his engineers, but he's the one controlling the game. He's the one controlling the settings. So he can't 100% put the blame on the team, even if it was a call from the team, because it has to be a joint decision for him to put those soft tires on the car. And I agree with Jarno on that. It was an unnecessary risk, especially since every other driver on the grid was on those intermediate tires. It's not as if anybody else would have been getting that advantage, even if the softs were quicker.
No, absolutely right. Well, we now move to Q3, and this is where things will get feisty, because this decides who's going to take pole position. And just look at this, Kai, in true fashion of, well, contrast to what we have seen in prior sessions, we now move on to the soft tire here this time around. So dry tyres are plenty across the 10 car classification that we have here at Suzuka. Ismail Fassi we're currently seeing on screen. Ferrari hoping for a big run at this as well. But Manley, I want to talk about him. The Challengers champion. It's taken a while for him to really, I would suggest, find his feet properly here in the F1 Sim Racing World Championship. But what a confident run at the very end to go from not setting a time at all to having one shot at it, finding yourself in second place at the very death, securing your place in Q3.
Well, that just shows that he's confident in his own ability to be able to go out there with so much pressure, riding on that final lap, and just kill all of the voices in his head, shut out all of the noise, and just focus on the track in front of him. And when it all really counted, he was able to put that lap together. Stellar performance to get himself into Q3, and definitely a talent that we need to keep our eyes on as well. Nicolas Longuet is just making his way around the circuit, but we have had such a treat, in these qualifying sessions. We've had a wide array of track conditions. We've had stormy, wet weather at the start. Then we got the light rain with the intermediates in Q2, and now it's bone dry.
Yeah, I thought we were going to be floating out of the commentary box after what we saw in Q1, to be honest with you, but thank goodness it's virtual rain and not the real thing. We are very well covered, I will say,
Yes,
here at DreamHack
yes.
in the NEC in Birmingham. But as we now watch as Danny Berejnay makes his way through Dunlop Curb, obviously reaching the precipice of the snake section and then heading through the Degners. Obviously no concerns with wet weather, utilising that soft tyre with the higher ended level of grip here with this compound. Pirelli, of course, supplying the rubber here in Formula One, as they have done now for such a long time, coming out of the heavy hairpin braking zone at turn 11, then shooting uphill again, making your way through out of turn 11 through turn 12 at 200R, and then spoon curve at turn 13, where you can actually tread a little bit more over the curve this time. That wet weather not existent here at this stage. We are going to remain overcast, it seems, for now. Doesn't look like we're going to be seeing any major mix-ups here before the end of this session, so the drivers will get a good run on soft rubber as they now charge down through towards the Casio Triangle. It's Danny Berejnay, the Hungarian, looking to register a top flight first time, a benchmark here. They have not seen the soft tyres at all throughout the course of Q1 and Q2. Opmeer only once as Berejnay sets in the first fastest time, a 1:28 set on the board. Ismail Fassi though into the 1:27s. Rasmussen now setting a 1:27.717. It's Berejnay down to fourth because Otis Lawrence has gone second fastest, and actually a 10th flat off the pace as Nicolas Longuet moves into second, 700ths away from Rasmussen. Ruben Pedreño looks to join them, fourth fastest for him. In comes Tom Manley, who electrified us coming through the final echelons of qualifying in Q2. Now looking to do the same here this time, cannot quite replicate it now. He's P6 as now Alfie Butcher looking to lay down the carving knife here from P10. Will he register a fast lap? Yes, first fastest here for Alfie Butcher, 1:27.545. We can't say the same for Jake Benham. He's brought it into the pits.
So, first round of laps are on the board, and that means that this is the calm before the storm. Drivers will come into the pit lane, have a quick debrief with their engineers, and get themselves ready for that final flying lap. Alfie Butcher, currently leading the way, has to be confident in his pace, because in the F1 sim racing world, 2/10 is quite a large margin between drivers, especially over one of the caliber of Freddie Rasmussen in second position right now. Great recovery from his Q2 performance, just being on the edge of P10 as well. But McLaren looking good for the moment. Jake Benham still needs to set a time, so all of that pressure will ride onto his final lap. Nicolas Longuet, 2022, won around this circuit and looking to do it again if possible. 4 minutes remaining on the clock. Any predictions, George?
Well, I was about to ask you as well, Kai, to be honest with you. But yes, absolutely right. I mean, we've got to discuss it because this could mean everything in terms of where the championship goes, because, of course, it may not be Freddie Rasmussen this time, even though he does sit second fastest coming through into Q3. We could see a change at the top, but great to see Alfie Butcher back, and McLaren with 2 cars in this session. Obviously, Jake Benham unable to file that initial time onto the board. I must say, Freddie's pace is looking good. I'm keen to see Nicolas Longuet show off his very best. I think we've seen enough from Q1 and Q2 yesterday, and especially after finding his way into Q3 once again in back-to-back qualifying sessions. He's been hitting the trap door, isn't he? Trying to punch his way into P1.
Well, there's definitely no doubt about his ability on the circuit. 8-time pole position sitter in the past and looking to make it 9. Every single time he hits the circuit in these qualifying sessions, he has a great chance of arriving in pole position and is always up at the sharp end in these qualifying sessions. A great pan over there. You can see all the drivers so laser focused on their simulators. And I may say, George, the simulators all looking amazing here at the NEC.
Well, I tell you what, they won't have long to wait to jump back out, because we do just have just under 3 minutes. Of course, it's in fact 2 3/4 minutes. And until the end of the session, it will be ticking to 0. So some final preparation will be put in place. Obviously, conversations with the engineers. Jake Benham, much like Tom Manley in the last session, no time fielded. There is Manley on your screen. Obviously, like I said, the F1 Esports Challengers champion from a few seasons ago, arrived in at Racing Bulls. And, of course, has been a long time serving with the team now. Alfie Butcher as well getting set to go again. Frederick Rasmussen making his way out onto the track. He will be the first driver to make his way out onto the circuit in a bid to register a potential second pole position this season. Can he do back-to-back poles here, Kai?
Well, I'm not going to take the option off the table because he clearly has the pace to do so, sitting pretty in second right now, just about a 10.5 off Alfie Butcher. That time, I'm sure Freddie Rasmussen will know where he lost that time. He's a very switched-on driver, so smart, so precise, and knows exactly what he needs to do to make sure that he's the driver out on top. Danny Beresnay makes a Q3 appearance. Great to see him back in Q3 as well, as Alpine will be very happy to see both of their cars making it through into the Q3 session. The only other team, there is 2 other teams in the Q3 session. We obviously have both of the Alpine drivers and both of the McLaren drivers as well. So in terms of constructors, they can be quite pleased with their results so far today. Despite
the loss of Alvaro Carreton, we still have 2 former pole sitters in this Q3 session. Obviously, Freddie Rasmussen back in 2020. Thomas Ronha did it the last time we arrived here at Suzuka. That, of course, being back in 2022. We are currently in the outlap phase of this final run in qualifying to decide pole position. Freddie Rasmussen will be the first to cross the line to begin his flying lap. Now, I want to ask everyone here in DreamHack, because we've got people sat around watching everything unfold here. Hope you're all keeping well. Are you ready to see the final runs, everybody? Louder! Hey. Thank you very much. Not forced at all. As we now get set to go again. Kai, where's your money? Oh, don't ask me that question, because there's so many drivers that could pick it up here. You know, you can't look away from Alfie Butcher, Freddie Rasmussen. It's easy to look at the top 2 with them being 2 very strong drivers, but we've said his name time and time again. He's victorious around this circuit. We know he's fast in qualifying. Let's go with the Frenchman. Nicolas Longuet was just short of it yesterday. I think today's a different day. That's the driver he selecting. Of course, in terms of pole positions, Freddie Rasmussen stands alone at the top, of course, on 18 after yesterday's magnificent effort to storm to the top at China. Thomas Ronha, who he himself, very much a fast driver, of course, moving from Kick Sauber into the Mercedes. Nicolas Longuet, the 3rd in the pole positions tier with 8 against his name. Would love to make it 9. Currently sat 3rd at the moment in this classification, just under 2.5 tenths away from Butcher's fastest time of a 1:27.545. Rasmussen, though, within 2 tenths after his last lap behind Alfie Butcher. Now he's going to make his way down through towards the final curves here at this Suzuka circuit. Now 130R beckons, he takes it in abundance, now in towards the Casio Triangle chicane, and out of last curve at turn 18. We're going to see these final times light up now as they look to cross the line. Can Freddie escalate himself one place higher? Yes, he can. Provisional first fastest here from the Great Dane, but there's more to come. Danny Berejnay goes second fastest, but will he stay there? His teammate Otis Lawrence has taken second from him. It's Alpine, 2 and 3. Nicolas Longuet blasts out of the Casio Triangle chicane himself for Williams, and now looks to move his way towards the line. Pedreño 4th. Danny Berejnay topples. It's Rasmussen still on top. Longuet goes 3rd. Fassi 4th this time as well. Ronha moves into 5th fastest. Just breaks into that top 5. But it's Fredrik Rasmussen. Back-to-back pole positions here in the F1 Sim Racing World Championship of 2026. The Great Dane is on fire.
Fast Freddie back on top. Pole yesterday, race victory yesterday, and now we find ourselves in Suzuka, returning after 4 years. Freddie Rasmussen makes his mark back on top. Otis Lawrence sets himself up beautifully for the race later on, trying to recover from the mistake he made in China. Was just 12 thousandths that separated the top 2. Mere margins. That is a blink of the eye and you would miss it. Every driver in the top 10 separate by less than half a second, George.
Freddie on fire here at Suzuka. Racing Bulls are Red Bulls are charging here. Racing Bulls not quite so much this time, but Tom Manley will start inside the top 10 after his Q3 appearance. Could not, though, lift himself off P10, unfortunately. Alfie Butcher, despite holding a P1 time for a reasonable period, found himself down in 9th place as well. Danny Berejnay in 8th. Jake Benham, though, up into 6th ahead of Ruben Pedreño. Thomas Ronha now inside the top 5, and that's a different ending to what we saw from yesterday, Kai. A little bit closer to the front end.
Yeah, and that's exactly what he would have been hoping for, to get himself up towards that front end. Thomas Ronha obviously had that fastest purple sector in the first sector as well, so clearly very confident in his ability and what the car is able to produce out on the track. Now, if you've spotted it already down on the ground, Nicola Hume is with the most talkative man in the F1 sim racing paddock. I wonder if we'll get a smile out of Freddie this time.
You never know. I mean, he is 1 away from achieving 20 pole positions. Let's find out a little more. Nicola is with him now.
There was definitely a smile there. I saw the smile. Now, Freddie, I spoke to you yesterday when you got pole in China. Then I spoke to you yesterday again when you won China. And now here you are, 3rd time. This is a really nice way for us to get to know each other. How are you feeling, Freddie?
I'm still shaky. That was a very intense qualifying, especially Q2.
Yeah, so talk me through Q2, because it seemed, did you go on softs a bit like Jarno did?
No, I don't know. Maybe the game messed up for Jarno and it put it on softs. I don't know. I think we knew that inters were faster.
So as soon as it started to dry up, what was going through your head then? Were you a bit like, oh, okay, it's fair game. It's mine now?
No, not at all. When it was getting more dry, then we were actually getting slower compared to the others. So I wasn't sure how it was going to go.
So you're now going to have a little break. Obviously, I spoke to Jarno earlier, who went out in Q2, and he said he's going to go back, go through strategy, that kind of thing, and then you can plan for the race in Japan. Is it exactly the same situation for you?
Yeah.
Well, that's a nice, easy, short answer. That's classic Freddie for you. But I'm excited to see what's going on with you this weekend, because when I spoke to you yesterday, this was before qualifying happened, you said you didn't have the best start last year, and that's why you were demoted to the 2nd driver. But you're off to a pretty solid start, so what's going through your head right now, please?
Well, it's still only the 2nd race, so we can't tell anything yet.
We love a humble king. Freddie, go chill out. Thank you very much. Congratulations on pole. George, back. Oh, no, sorry, Tom, back to you. You're back on the stage.
I am, Nicola. I was watching the race with the fans. So good to see so many people packed here on the seats, as close to the action as possible. Brilliant work from George and Kai. Shock, yes, Jarno out, but Freddie, pole, victory, pole. He's in a sweet spot right now.
He is Freddie on fire. That is the case. I mean, this is a much better Freddie Rasmussen, I think, from last season. Has really hit the ground running at the start of the campaign. And you need a great first event. I mean, that's pivotal. And obviously, it's a bit of a double-edged sword, though, for Red Bull. Obviously, despite Freddie being on top, Jarno Opmeer being in P14.
I don't think they mind. And I'll tell you why I don't think they mind, George, is the fact is the team constructors, $750,000 on the line. That's about, I think it's 177,000 or something on that line, so 120. We'll get confirmation on that. It's a huge amount of money for the team. I think they'll be just thinking, we're absolutely smashing it so far.
Yeah, the team game is as strong as the individual game as well. I mean, Red Bull have to be confident. They have the most decorated driver lineup on the grid as well. Freddie and Jarno Opmeer. Who else would you want in your lineup?
Yeah, I think that competition is good. It's pushing them to the max at the moment. Let's look back at the quali highlights, and it really started off. We had all of the seasons in one quali, didn't we?
We had. I mean, we started off with heavy rain. In fact, it registered storm on our telemetry data, so we were all ensuring that we were undercover. But kicking things off, obviously the wet tyres were prevalent. No one thinking about slick compounds, and for good reason as well. Obviously not an ideal run for certain drivers, though it has to be said, at the end of the day, Freddie Rasmussen showing his pace initially coming through the first 10 minutes of the session. Pedreño was also showing some really positive signs. Even Jan Halliday, who arrived in as well as a newbie to the series at the same time. Joris Krozen as well was at the top briefly as well, and others also filtering through. Track position was vital. Obviously, you had to be careful of slow down cars at certain points on the circuit coming in towards 130R. Ruben Pedreño once again at the top end and fighting for the top placings. But the times came in rather late, didn't they? Towards the end of Q1, Otis Lawrence there briefly touching the top. Jake Benham did exactly the same, 13,000s up. It was actually an impressive performance on Jake's part, and once again managing to achieve a Q3. Q2, Benham was a little out of sync from everybody else. Again, he went fastest briefly, did eventually though filter down into P3, but remained in the session. We of course saw the shock of losing Jarno Opmeer at the very tail end of that session. Alfie Butcher as well in the mixer, trying to provide a second McLaren higher up the order. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to quite pull that off. But as we came into the final seconds, inside the final minute of the Q3 session, this is where we saw Freddie at his absolute clinical best. But unhooking a lap, a 125.2, he was on song.
Yeah, sorry, I got slightly distracted. I saw some characters dressed up from Sims, which was beautiful to see here at DreamHack Birmingham. But yeah, watching those highlights, it had a bit of everything, Kai. Any surprises that stood out to you?
Ooh, any surprises that stood out to me? Jarno Opmeer's departure. I think that is a shock to everybody, especially seeing him go on those soft tyres on his final run.
Yeah, Freddie was unsure what had happened there. But Jarno, we know, some drivers may think that was disappointing. They may hold on to it for quite a long time. But Jarno is a true sort of three-time champ. That'll be forgotten about.
Yeah, and I think he's such a seasoned veteran. He's so confident in his ability in the car. He knows he's capable of winning. He knows he's capable of doing better than P14 in qualifying. So I don't think he'll worry about that too much. It's not really going to play on his mind. I'm sure he will scrap that memory before he even hits the grid for the race later on.
You mentioned several times, let's look at the classification there of quali, and the fact that it's 12 thousandths of a second separating first and second. The difference between pole, that is what's at stake. You mentioned several times, Kai, about those margins. Anything that stands out to you? Thomas Ronhart, for me, back up there with an opportunity to put some points on the board for Mercedes.
Yeah, great to see Thomas Ronhart back up there in a qualifying position. Obviously, the highest average qualifying position, the lowest average qualifying position in F1 sim racing history. Yeah, an average of 2.94. So pretty much always qualifying in the top three, just outside this time, but fifth you can't complain with.
You can tell it's event one. We heard that from Alvaro Carreton as well. In terms of the rookies, any standouts for you there, George?
Now, he may not have featured inside the top 10, but I want to give Jan Halliday a big round of applause because I thought he dealt with the conditions immensely well. It's very daunting coming to an arena like this. Bear in mind, this is his first ever appearance in F1 sim racing, and to do it in front of the crowd at DreamHack, 50,000 tickets sold across the weekend, not to mention the thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people watching around the globe. You know, equally, it's astounding. So I want to give him certainly a lot of credit. Aston Martin, I must say, impressed me in Q2. I thought they did an excellent job. Ruben Pedreño, of course, eventually finding himself inside the top 10. So definitely more to come. Claffenbach, I'm hoping we'll see a little bit more of as we make our way through the championship.
Because it's now about the strategy time between 3:30 p.m. When we go racing around the Suzuka Grand Prix, the Japanese Grand Prix. We will have that time for them to assess what strategy they're going to come in with, because yesterday there was some really aggressive strategy, particularly from McLaren. We noticed it, and I can see it, and why I'm building this up, because I could see him just down there in the front, sort of getting ready for a little chat with Nicola. But it was aggressive strategy from him yesterday, and it paid off because he got a podium. It could happen again today.
Absolutely. I mean, Alfie Butcher boxed early. I mean, he opted to go 3 laps earlier than everybody else, and he really had to hold on to his hat really in the final stint to maintain that 3rd place. Having Jarno Opmeer breathing down your neck is no easy feat. I wouldn't want that personally. So credit to Alfie Butcher for that. I also want to say well done, Jake Benham, after Q2 today. Obviously went a bit out of sync from everybody else and actually managed to at least hold on to P3 to move in to Q3. So credit to McLaren.
Okay, talking to McLaren, and Nicola Hume is with Alfie Butcher.
Hi, Alfie Butcher. Now, how did that feel for you, knowing that Freddie was breathing down your neck through those last few minutes? Because Q3, you were up there, you were right at the top of the board for such a long period of time, and then it was just that final lap, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think the last run was always going to be the best run of the session, with the nature of the track conditions, obviously it drying up. Yeah, obviously I had a good first run. I was happy with that one, went back into the pits, refreshed. And yeah, just on the last run, I made a small mistake in the last chicane and it cost me a couple temps, but all in all, it's probably a positive session, 2 cars in Q3, and we can fight forwards from there.
Yeah, so you're starting in P9, so obviously now you'll go away, you'll have your strategy, you'll have your bagel, which we discussed earlier. I might go there myself as well. But once you're doing that, how do you then keep your focus, knowing that Jake is ahead of you, knowing you've got a few places to climb? What's going through your head at that point?
Yeah, no, it's obviously good to have Jake near me on track. We can work together and focus on getting ourselves forward as much as we can. So yeah, we'll obviously discuss it, we'll review it, and we'll try and find the best outcome and hopefully move forward in the race.
And you've only been doing this for the last couple of years, so actually this is your first time racing F1 esports at Japan. So how does that feel?
Yeah, no, Japan in preparation, it was quite a good track for me, I was enjoying it. Obviously I showed glimpses of it today, but didn't quite get it together in the final lap. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the race and showing what we can do.
I also had a lovely chat earlier with your dad, by the way. Is he your lucky charm?
Clearly not.
Well, that's the end of that conversation then. Right, back to you guys. Thank you, Tom.
We did catch up with Alfie Butcher's dad. It's so good to see parents here supporting their children here to compete in this. We see Otis, Lawrence's parents. I'm sure they are absolutely over the moon for Otis to be starting on the front row, and of course Nico Longue's dad is here as well, and that's your top 3 right there. Summarize it for our viewers around the world. Why should they be coming back at 3:30 to watch the race? Apart from the obvious, how can we set this up beautifully for them?
Well, I mean, you're going to have a little bit of everything, I think, here, with the circuit being the way it is. Obviously, Jarno did mention that overtakes are going to be tricky. It's always going to be hard from outside, but certainly the heavy braking zones provide plenty of opportunity for the drivers, especially, though, in the snake section, mistakes can occur in moments like that. Also, you're going to see differing strategies. I'm sure perhaps a few drivers will risk the soft tyre as we make our way through. So let's see how they manage that. Obviously, for Red Bull, it's going to be the mission of every other team to try and stop them. Freddie has got some mean-spirited drivers in behind him. Nicolas Longue will be starting on the 2nd row. Otis alongside him. It's going to be fireworks through turn 1. Don't miss it.
Yeah, Alfie Butcher's dad has been asked to leave now by Alfie to make sure he gets a better result out there. Is there anything you can add to that, Kai? I mean, it's about these drivers knitting it all together, as Alfie mentioned.
Yeah, the groundworks have been laid, and it's just about ironing out those creases now and making sure that every driver is prepared for a perfect performance, because that's what you need to win here in F1 sim racing. I think George summed it up perfectly. Expect the unexpected at 3:30.
All right, you've got to be bold. All these F1 sim racing drivers have to be bold if they want to hunt down Freddie Rasmussen. That's it from us right now. Thank you very much for joining us for Event 1, Round 2 around Suzuka for Quali. We'll be back at 3:30 where we'll go racing. Thank you very much to George Morgan, Cappuccini, and Nicola Hume, and then the whole team. We'll see you then.